Now I'd like to welcome my guest for this hour. Still with us, litigation trial attorney Rich Schoenstein. Joining us now, FBI Special Agent Bobby Chacon. Bobby, thank you for joining us. And I want to pick up right with some of this great information that Chanley was pointing out, and specifically the one when you know the first crime scene, you have two individuals, a 40-year-old, a 38-year-old, Chris and Gary Roden, both of whom were shot to death. But then it showed in that diagram that the bodies were dragged and their blood along with them to another room in the house. Do you have any theory or information that might help us understand why would they have been dragged to that other room we can see on the screen now after they were shot and killed?
That's an interesting question, particularly if we know how brutally they were murdered. Why not just leave them in there? Maybe they were trying to make it look different. Maybe they were trying to make it look like this was a, another drug thing. We've already known that they've kind of floated out there the fact that these people were marijuana dealers. Maybe this was some kind of cartel related or drug related thing. So maybe they were trying to stage it to make it look like, a drug transaction gone wrong or something like that. This is part, I think, of the strategy of both the prosecution and defense.
All right, so what about this? Was this strategy or mistake when you hear that on top of that blood, there's shoe prints, and we know that we expect, based on opening statements, as Chanley just mentioned, that the shoe prints are going to match shoes purchased by the Wagners at a Walmart. And let me start with, Rich, just your initial reaction, but then Bobby, I want that FBI. What about that detail?
Well, I don't want to tell anybody how to cover up evidence in a crime like this, but obviously you don't want to walk through blood. And I'm very interested to hear about the boots. We're trying to pin different people being involved in this crime, and so far I've heard about 3 guns, which perked my interest, and now I'm hearing about multiple boots. That is my interest too. That could be very important evidence here.
And Bobby, tell me, have you had any situations like this where a criminal does something that directly ties them back to the crime, like shoe prints that match shoes purchased by the Wagners?
Oh, all the time. I mean, look, these aren't, the term criminal mastermind is kind of an oxymoron because criminals generally aren't masterminds, and generally they often make mistakes which lead to their convictions. And this is one of those examples. But in this particular case, I think they're showing the movements because they're almost acquiescing to the fact that this defendant didn't pull the trigger, but the callousness of dragging those bodies and stepping over them, I think they have to paint a picture to the jury that this person, even if the jury is going to accept that they did this, he didn't pull the trigger, that he was so complicit, he was so callous in his actions to help in helping commit this crime, that he's just as guilty of the murders as the people who pulled the trigger. So I think it's somewhat nuanced, but I think they want to show, that's why it's so painstakingly putting in these pictures and putting in the very details of who stepped where and how. I think they want to show this defendant as being so callous in his actions that he's as guilty of these murders as the people that pulled the trigger.
Yeah, great point, Bobby. All right, Bobby, Rich, sit tight. We're going to break down more testimony in the Wagner trial. And later, we will shift gears and talk about InfoWars founder Alex Jones. His defamation trial continues today, and we will certainly get you caught up.
I'm not trying to get out of this alive, dumbasses. I'm not trying to get out of this a winner in your system. I'm here to bring you down. I'm here to make you pay.
Tonight on Closing Arguments, an in-depth look at the Murdaugh murder mystery case. A disgraced former attorney accused of killing his wife and son. This high-profile case continues to surprise, and our experts will break it all down. And on the docket, Karen Reed, charged with the murder of her police officer boyfriend. We'll take a closer look at the allegations coming from both sides ahead of next week's big hearing.
Closing Arguments with Vinnie Politan, tonight at 8/7 Central, only on Court TV.
Visit us online.
Back to our coverage of the Ohio family massacre trial. Court has adjourned for the day. That happened just a short time ago. And the defendant in this case, George Wagner IV, is the one accused of conspiring with his brother and his parents to kill 8 members of the Roden family. Let's take a moment to listen to a 911 call. This was the call made after the discovery of 2 members of the Roden family.
911. 40. Let's go. Hold on.
I need you to tell me the address. What's the address?
Just a second. We walked to the mailbox. I think my brother-in-law's dead.
Okay, what's the address?
Give me just a second. 4077 Union Hill Road.
Ma'am, you gotta tell me what's going on.
There's blood all over the house.
Okay.
My brother-in-law's in the bedroom. It looks like I beat the hell out of him.
Okay.
There's blood all over the front room.
Ma'am, can you tell me what county that's in? Is it
White County?
It's White County?
Yes, and they drug him in the bedroom.
Okay, I need you to get out of the house. Did you drive over there?
Yes, I did.
Okay, what's your name?
Mine's Bobby.
Bobby? What's your brother-in-law's name? What's your brother-in-law's name? Ma'am?
Yeah.
What's his name?
Chris Roden and Gary Roden.
Chris and Gary Roden?
Both of them that looks like they're dead.
You think they're both dead?
I think they're both dead. Looks like.
No.
Not that I know of.
Okay.
The doors was locked when we got here, but I know where the key was at. And I went in and had her laying on the floor.
Bobby, I need you to get out of the house and wait.
I'm done now. I'm
Okay?
standing outside right now.
Okay, just stay out of the house. Don't let anybody go in there, okay?
Yeah.
All right, we got deputies on the way, okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Still with us, litigation trial attorney Rich Schoenstein and FBI Special Agent Bobby Chacon. So many questions from that one call. So let's take it from the top, gentlemen. First of all, Bobby, tell us about the fact that, you know, we'd heard about victims being shot. The first crime scene, those two victims had been shot. But Bobby Jo, when she finds her brother-in-law Chris, says it looks like somebody beat the hell out of him.
Yeah, I mean, this could be the fact that they were shot multiple times in the head. Head wounds tend to, you know, there's not a lot of soft tissue in the head, and so it tends to kind of explode when you hit it multiple times. And so, you know, when she has a quick look and she's under duress like that, I mean, it could have looked like somebody beat the hell out of him, but several shots to someone's head could make it, unfortunately, come apart enough that when you give a quick look in the dark and you're very upset, it could look like that. I think the key thing was she was able to tell, even without forensic, she was able to tell that it looked like they were dragged from one room to another. She actually says that during the call. I thought she was remarkably composed until the end when she started breaking down. She gave the address, clearly she gave their names. I think she did a great job in providing the information that was needed, you know, before she broke down, because this has to be one of the most horrific things, if not the most horrific night of this person's life.
No, I completely agree with you. And the fact that she did sound calm and she knew they were dead. She said, no, I think they're both dead. And yet she was able to do all of that. One other thing I need to ask you, Bobby, before we bring you in for some of the legal aspects, Rich, and that is the thing that really gave me chills is when the 911 operator appropriately said, you need to get out of the house, and then told her again, okay, you need to get out of the house, because the reality is, Bobby, she had no idea whether or not the person who did this was still in that home. In fact, she says the doors were locked when I got here.
Yeah, that was very interesting. The fact that the doors were locked and she had to get the key to get in. I think she did a good job. I think she got out of the house even before the operator told her to. It sounded like she said she was on her way to the mailbox to get the address, to get the right address, and she wanted to get it right. But yeah, I mean, at that point, as a 911 operator, you have no idea what's going on. You don't know what we know now, right? And so she's like, these people could still be in the house. They could be in the backyard. You need to get out of there and get away. She's also, I think, in some respects, trying to preserve a crime scene. She's telling her to get out. When she tells, don't let anybody else go in there, you know, they realize that this is, you know, a potential crime scene and we have to kind of preserve it.
Right, and Rich, let's talk about the prosecution and the storytelling, because we've had legal analysts on and viewers have said the opening statement of the prosecution was very lengthy, somewhat confusing, pretty tedious about the details. And this story is so compelling. It is, you don't have to do much to make it a compelling story because of the horrific nature, because of that 911 call in and of itself. Do you think the prosecution is effectively presenting all of this compelling evidence and taking it that necessary step? And you already said no, but to really lay the foundation to say, and here's the evidence that connects this defendant to these horrible crimes.
Yeah, I don't want to pick on the prosecution because I think it's an extremely hard case to prosecute. But I agree with the other analysts. I thought that opening statement was too long, and it wasn't what I would have done, which is to come out, say what the crime was, tell them what the crime was, who the victims were, who you think the perpetrators are, tell them in short order what the evidence is going to be, preview for the jury the fact that you're going to have things like this crime scene investigator who has a lot of evidence you'll have to tie up later, and then sit down. I thought it could have been done much more streamlined and more effectively, and that would have helped with this part of the case we're seeing right now, which again is a little tedious.
And I will say this prosecutor knows this jury, knows this community, and so the other thing I always want people to keep in mind is when you have any attorney who's been in the area, in that community trying cases, they do know how to try the case in a way that speaks to the jury. So there's always that aspect of it, and I agree with you, what a case to try for both sides. There's just no easy way in a case like this for either side, in my opinion.